Now, if you know that you owe someone money, a company money, and it's affecting your ability to move forward in life, it's time that you understand the difference between debt payoff and debt cancellation. You want to make sure that you're using effective strategies to negotiate your debt down or develop a plan so that you can pay it off efficiently. That's in a manner that benefits you. Now, I want to let you know that sometimes people get these two things mixed up, and that's why I want to take this time to not only share some strategies, but also some stories that this stuff actually works. So let's start off with debt payoff. Debt payoff is when you actually pay your debt with regular payments to a vendor in full. So that means you pay off the full amount and you're not getting anything canceled. You are obligated to pay. And once you complete your payments, then it's paid off. So you paid it off. Now, I remember there was a time where I was fresh out of graduate school and I had some debts that I acquired in a short amount of time, and I was trapped in a toxic job and I felt like I was drowning. And a mentor I went to visit, she told me to read this book before I came to visit her. And the first thing I did after reading the first 2 chapters is I went to the store and I got a binder. And in that binder, I created different tabs talking about my taxes, W-2s and pay stubs, bills that need to be executed, medical information. I got organized. And so step 1 is really getting organized with your record keeping. You want to know exactly what vendors you owe, how much, the account number. You want the physical documentation. You want to have that handy so you can keep notes, keep track, and then you can definitely document when it was completed. When I got organized, when I got everything in order, that's when I started to realize, okay, I'm not afraid of this. I'm not afraid of being overwhelmed. And so when I actually got to my mentor's house, she said, I want to show you something. She went and pulled out a binder. It had a lot of loose leaf paper, and she said, this is how she paid off over $200,000 in debt. First thing is, when she got organized with what she owed, she realized that a lot of her debt was coming from cars, credit cards, furniture, rental properties. And she said a lot of it was just poor decision making. And her in-laws, they were so kind and loving, they kept bailing her and her husband out. But when she realized the debt amount was over $200,000, she said, I needed that. I needed to feel how uncomfortable, scary, and heavy it was to carry that debt around that would affect the progress of myself and my family. I needed that. And I want you to hear this right now. When it comes to debt payoff, you want to have the mindset that I'm willing to pay it off, not just hoping it gets canceled. You need this season to realize I don't want to ever come back here again. So the second thing was I learned a money rule. If you can't pay for it in full, don't pay for it. I know that even means sometimes for us when we want to buy a car, we're like, oh, I'll make payments, but we want to shift our mindset moving forward. If you cannot pay for it in full, don't pay for it, which means we're going to make different decisions to save, to buy in full. So my mentor showed me all the papers, and these were the top things that she did. 1, making sure that you actually call them and negotiate. So when she called, she got the name of the representative, she documented the date and the time when she was speaking to them, and the first thing she asked was, can you please verify the amount? I need a lot of you to understand that sometimes there's something called human error. That's when employees sometimes make mistakes. And so you want to make sure that the amount is correct. And the other reason why you want to ask, can you please verify the amount, is because you want to make sure the debt wasn't acquired by another company. Because oftentimes when that happens, you're not obligated to pay it back. So the other thing she told me, sometimes when she started, she would go off on these representatives, like go off attitude, you better help me now. And she didn't get anywhere. But when she came in polite, respectful, she even started doing some sob stories and crying to negotiate. That's when it worked. So remember, you're talking to other people on the other side who are humans. And as someone who's worked in financial services, I want you to understand, people leave notes on your account when you call from customer service. They leave notes if you're rude or aggressive to warn other people. So you don't want those marks on your account. You want people who are excited to help you. So she showed me this, and she even told me that when it came to her debt payoff, there were certain things that they said, you know what, we'll work with you. And she said, for one account that was like, you know, $1,700, she said, I'll give you $500 right now if we can get this canceled. And they agreed. When you are coming into your debt payoff journey and your debt cancellation journey, it's important that you have a game plan, you have money set aside, and that's why you want to know your numbers. You want to know exactly what you owe and what you currently have. So if you're ever on the phone and you need to negotiate, you can say, I can give you this amount right now. Will you take it to close it out? 9 out of 10 times they will. It doesn't always happen like that, depending on the type of debt that you have, but it doesn't hurt to try. And so you are in charge of effort, not outcome. And when you recognize that, you're gonna start feeling more confident. You're not gonna be afraid to open your bills because you know you can place a call respectfully, verify, you're organized, you know your numbers, and you can ask them, what's your best offer? I can give you X amount right now if we can close this out. I'm trying to be responsible. Can you work with me? Try using that language. Try using those money scripts with your debt payoff journey. The other thing is, like I said, mindset. It's not how much debt can I get away with. You need to feel this so you do not make the same decisions again. And when you actually pay off your debt, make sure that you have a separate bank account, different from your bills so that there's no money being mixed together. Open up a separate savings account. You can pay out of the ACH and routing number provided from that account. Or I do sometimes encourage clients to have a separate debit card and bank account all together, move money into that account and use that card for debt payoffs so that nothing is being mixed with your current debit card account. Now, let's shift gears into debt cancellation. After I met with this mentor, after she showed me the mountain of debt that she got canceled and why she's wealthy today is because she pays for things in full. She pays for her cars in cash. She makes sure that, you know, all phones paid for in full. I felt empowered because I heard her story. I had already gotten organized because of the book, and I started making my calls. The first call I made was, there was like a debt that I owed to like a car insurance company, and I called them and I said, you know, can you please verify the amount? They said, yeah, I just looked and we can't find anything. It seems like this company was bought by another company, and if I don't even see you in the system, that means they just canceled the debt. What? See, wow. I wasn't looking for a cancellation. I was ready to pay it off, but guess what? A cancellation happened because I asked the right question and I got some new information that the debt was actually acquired. Boom! That debt cancellation was a great start and a great momentum. Now, let's define debt cancellation really quick. Debt cancellation is when you actually are relieved by the vendor to pay back the amount of money that you owe. And this means you are no longer obligated to pay. So for me, you know, that first one was done. Boom, insurance. Now I had another debt. When I was in college, I started a business, and in that state, at that time, whether you made money or not, you had to pay almost $1,000 in taxes a year. And so it had been a couple years, and I was like, no, let's face it. I'm somebody who was like, I want to pay for things in full. But remember this, when you are in your debt cancellation and debt payoff journey, pay for something, put something down. So my mindset was, okay, I may not have X amount of thousands of dollars, but because I want to be responsible, I want to set up a payment plan that is realistic. So I called them, told them like, hello, can you please verify the amount? They told me the amount, and I said, I wanted to know what are some options so that I can get this paid off. I was a student in college. I didn't have the money then, but I want to get this taken care of now. What options do you have? And so the lady actually came in and she told me, she was like, hey, I just put you on hold. I went back and I listened to some of your customer service calls when you called in, when you were in college. I can hear that you were trying to do the right thing. We didn't have a program back then, but we have a program now that if your business did not make money, we will alleviate that tax debt requirement. My jaw dropped. That's a couple $1,000 canceled right there. She said, I will send you the paperwork. And she said, now just know this can take about, 2 to 3 months for us to get it processed. I'll email it to you, print it, and mail it over to us. I said, okay, thank you so much. I need you to understand I'm a living testimony of this. They're listening to your calls. They're listening to see how you treated people. And you always want to show that I'm trying to be responsible. Can you work with me? So I got that paperwork. And once I got it, filled it out, sent it. Do you know that what took everyone else 3 months, I got my debt canceled in 2 weeks? When you are in motion, when you are taking action, that's when change happens. It's not sitting and hoping, it's not thinking about what might go wrong. You face it head on, you be polite and respectful, and you be prepared for the win. And I got that alleviated and canceled. And so there are other stories that I have like that. There are other stories clients have like that, but I want you to understand debt is not your friend. And sometimes it's gonna affect your ability to leave a job. It's gonna affect your ability to buy a home. It's gonna affect your safety sometimes. And so you wanna, once you dig yourself out, you wanna keep yourself out. Now, the other thing I want you to understand is like, what happens if you are in a situation where, let's say you're in an apartment and you need to leave and you owe money to an apartment complex or a housing unit. I had a client who, because of a very dangerous situation where her life was at stake, she was on time with all of her rent, but she had to actually terminate her lease. And so her apartment complex did something called a skip, is when, basically you're skipping out on the lease and they give you like a set period and then you have to pay the rent until somebody takes over the unit. Now, she was proactive, posting on Facebook, trying to get different people to come and view the unit, but due to her safety, she had to leave. She had to completely leave like the territory and I think the state. So she had about 2 months of grace because that first month, she already paid the rent at the beginning of the month. That second month was grace. And then that third month, they were like, hey, what's your plan? She said, I'm in a tight space right now, but I want to pay this off. What is the minimum amount that I can pay? I can give you $100. They said, okay, we'll take it. We will mark it as a payment to show that you are doing due diligence. Now, let's pause right here. This is so important. When I said, make a payment, you want to show that you're putting in effort. You want to show that, hey, I have a plan. That's one of the biggest things that lenders and vendors want to hear. I have a plan to pay you back. I can't do that amount, but I can do this. And so I worked with her with really understanding language and developing a realistic plan. And did you know at that time, this young lady was not even employed? She was able to get the help of a church to pay that $100 directly to the apartment and housing complex for her. So boom, that first month, $100. Then the second month, they were like, hey, what's your plan? What's payment? She said, I can do another $100 and then next month I'll be able to make a bigger payment. They said, fine. She did not ignore them. She stayed on top of communication. And then the time came where she got a new job. She was able to triple her income. And so she let them know, hey, I'll be able to pay it off in full next month by this date. And do you know that they reached out to her and said, oh, someone took over the unit, so you only have to pay X amount of dollars, which was significantly less than she was thinking she was gonna have to pay. So now she was able to cut her debt in half, and she was able to make the payments in that month to the lender. So I wanna let you know, if you're going through a chaotic time, or if even with a housing situation, you wanna make sure that you always ask, like, what happens if I need to terminate prematurely? Do you allow someone else to take over the lease? And just communicate with them properly and effectively. So I wanna encourage you, these are the type of steps you wanna take. Everything in life is negotiable. Everything. It's how you do it that matters. If you're going to cancel debt, make sure you have a plan, get organized first, go get your binder, go get something that you can keep all your records, make sure you're documenting the name, date, time that you're speaking to representatives, be respectful, verify the amount, can you work with me, what's the lowest I can pay, asking those questions to see what they can do to help you. If this was helpful, definitely let us know, and if you have any other questions. But we will see you in the next episode. We don't wait, we prepare.